Hey everyone, this is Azyxa from Metatalks. I am back, and I just wanted to talk about the three opponents I faced in the Resurrected Games Charity Tournament I played in. So I had already done a podcast with my short episode with my deck list. So as for my opponents, I just wanted to talk a bit about the games because, like I had said before, I was very happy with the deck. It was a mono blue devotion deck with creatures like Thassa and Master of Waves, Night Veil Spectre, stuff like that. It did have a slight splash of green for the Prophet of Krufix. The first opponent, he was playing a deck that it was red-white, pretty heavy on Theros cards. It was using the Heroic mechanic, and also the Bestow mechanic. The very first game I played, not having ever played in a tournament, I have, but not in a long time, and not standard. I wasn't too picky about my hand. I didn't have a 1-drop, and I was like, we'll see what happens. And it was definitely a struggle against his deck, which were a lot of small creatures. And so I lost the first game. And so I was more picky. I think both games I went down to 6. At least the second game I went down to 6 cards to make sure I had at least a Judge's Familiar, or Realm White, or what is it, the Cloudfin Raptor. At least one, like a single 1-drop and then 2-drop, and maybe either Thassa or the Master of Waves. So the next 2 games went very well. I don't think his deck was overly strong. The Tidebinder Mage really helped as well to lock down his red creatures. But yeah, they went pretty straightforward. Some of the cards that I remember he had were stuff like the was it Akron Crusader, Flamespeaker Adept, the Ordeal of Perfos, Phalanx Leader. He also had Chained to the Rocks, which he used against I think it was like the might have been the second or the last game. He did it was one of the longer of the 2 games. He did a Chained to the Rocks to my Thassa. I'm sorry, the Master of Waves, killing all my elementals. Luckily, I had another one in my hand, and I immediately played that during my next turn. In the turn after that, I basically overran him. Killed him with elementals every time, just overrunning him with the creatures. So, game went really well, first person. The next game I played was against a green-black deck with a splash of blue. The only reason he had blue in the deck, I guess, was for Cyclonic Rift, and also for miscellaneous blue cards, like the ones that put cards back in your hand, or a counterspell, maybe Gainsay if he was playing against like an all-blue deck. But I know he'd sideboarded some stuff in against me, but he didn't go too heavy blue. I think he was limited on lands, but some of the cards he was using, it was like a counter deck. It was a Corpsejack Menace, Mistcutter Hydra, not a fun card against mono blue deck. What is it? Colane Hydra, Experiment 1, Master Biomancer, and for mana generation, the Sylvan Caryatad. I cannot pronounce some of these new magic cards. I don't know where they get the names from. Caryatid. How do you pronounce that? Needless to say, let's see here. It was a pretty solid deck. Creatures got huge really fast. First game, I didn't have to draw down to 6. Got lucky with my cards. Pretty straightforward game for the mono blue deck. Got a lot of devotion. 1-drop, 2-drop. Played Thassa, then Master of Waves, and then pretty much overran him. And then he sideboarded some stuff. This is when I did do a little sideboarding. I put a Wall of Frost in, and I did put one other card in. I don't remember off the top of my head now what I did put in. I sideboarded in the Curse of Swine and the Wall of Frost. It's in my notes. The second game was the longest game I played of the night. It dragged out. It was actually a pretty exciting game too. So it started out dragging a bit. I think he got lucky, killed some of my creatures in the beginning, even though I had a pretty good flow from 1-drop, 2-drop, and 3-drop, being Thassa, and then on to the Master of Waves. When I played Master of Waves the first time, he responded with the Cyclonic Rift, and he had enough mana, being that he ramped up, being green, fairly fast. Luckily at the time he didn't have any major creatures. He just had a lot of mana generation and a lot of land because I was putting stuff back in his hand. I Cyclonic Rifted him back. And so definitely dragged out. I was able to get a Wall of Frost out, hold off some of his creatures. I did get out 2 Realm Rights. I think this was after the Cyclonic Rift, and I made swamps and I made forests. And one of my, what was it? Nightveil Specters ended up stealing some of his land as well. So I dropped one of his lands, which helped even more for mana ramp. I had put out the Prophet of Kruphix. That was what my splash of green was for. Luckily I had pulled it because his creatures were getting massive. I had pulled out the Prophet of Kruphix. His Mistcutter Hydra was at 4/4, he had another 4/4, and then something I think even larger at that point, which he'd hit the Wall of Frost with, and it didn't untap the next phase, so it slowed him down a little bit. But then after that I pulled out a Master of Waves on my turn, generated a ton of elementals. It was like 9, maybe 8 or 9. And then on his turn, using the Prophet of Kruphix, I was able to luckily pull out another Master of Waves, generating a ton of elementals all over the place. And I think I played something else during my turn as well, another creature. And so we were kind of matched on creatures, tokens aside, but then with the almost 20 elementals out, luckily that next turn I was able to overrun him because his Mistcutter Hydra, I mean pretty much everything on his board doubled their tokens. Mistcutter Hydra was 8/8, he had another 8/8, and a bunch of other large creatures, and my life was getting down seriously low. So that next turn, I was able to play after he was done, and I played my second Master of Waves. I did math real quick, attacked with everything, flat out, and killed him. The funny thing was, though, after the game was over, and we were so he started picking his cards up, and I started picking stuff up. He's like, wait, did you attack with your Master of Waves? I was like, oh yeah, shit, I did. And if he would have blocked it, I wasn't even thinking. If he would have blocked it, it would have killed all my elementals, and he would have stayed alive. But luckily, he missed that. I unfortunately missed it too. It's kind of amateur in a way, but I was just so there was just so many creatures on the board, and I was sitting there just doing the math back and forth. Totally didn't even think about it. Plus, I was fairly new at playing the mono blue devotion deck, and so he was pretty annoyed. He wanted to go back, and he's like, "Well, you wouldn't." He's like, "You wouldn't have killed me." I was like, "Well, yeah, but you didn't block. You didn't block the guy. No, we're not going to go back. This isn't a casual game." And he was kind of frustrated. But we did have time because the first game was super quick. So he's like, well, you just want to play a third one just to see what happens? And I have a feeling if I would have lost, he would have tried to take the game from me. But I was like, you know what? Yeah, we'll just play a third game, see what happens. Third game went very fast. It was faster than the first game, and he pretty much went down just immediately. He only had he had 2 creatures out, both mana generating, I think, and just wiped them out. Probably on the, 5th turn, maybe? Yeah, Master Waves for 4, and next turn I pretty much killed him. So yeah, very quick. He was very disappointed and frustrated, especially since he had missed the Master of Waves and not blocking it. So I did win that game. So the third game, this is kind of funny. This nerdy kid, it's kind of a funny statement when you're talking about Magic players, but even more nerdy than most. He came up, he's like, I won all my games. And he was the one that won Friday. This is a Saturday game. They were doing the tournament all through the weekend. And they were giving out prizes, pack of German Revised was the number one, for the number one spot. And that was they had, I guess, 3 packs, and they were doing it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. With a ton of other cards they were giving out. And they were just giving out prizes at random, doing raffles. But, he came up to me, and he was like, do you just want to, I didn't understand what he was saying at first. He's like, do you just want to, call it a tie, but then just, play the game and see who wins? And I think he wanted to do that, in a sense, because he just assumed he would win, and he wanted to save me. This is what I gather from it. He just wanted to save me the trouble of playing against his deck, being very confident about it, and it was just really bizarre, and I think he just wanted to also just take the pack as well, saying that we tied and he would be in first, since I think he didn't lose any of his games when I lost. I wasn't all 2-0, I was 2-1 for some of them. And so I was thinking, well, okay, I mean, we're both 2-0 overall, and I was like, yeah, let's play one game, see what happens. And like, I wasn't thinking much of the pack of German revised. I mean, I have so many revised cards. I have like 80 dual lands, so I was like, whatever. We'll do this and see what happens. And so he was playing, let's see here. It was blue-white, Azorius deck. And it was pretty much, a lot of the cards he had was like Detention Sphere, Sphinx's Revelation, Supreme Verdict. He had 1 or 2 Etherlings. I know this because I stole one with the Night Veil Spectre. But yeah, the game was very interesting. I played extremely well. It was pretty much a perfect game, as perfect as it could be against his kind of deck. I mean, from what I remember, it was first turn I had a Cloudfin Raptor, second turn I had Timebender Mage, and then I attacked, and then third turn Night Veil Spectre. Fourth turn I did Master of Waves with a bunch of elementals, and then he ended up doing Supreme Verdict, killing everything. Luckily at that point he didn't really have much on his board. I think he was having trouble with cards, or he didn't really know what else to play. He ended up Detention Sphering something as well. It might have been a Tidebender Mage, but I'm not sure. And so once he did that, I came back, he played some stuff, I got rid of it, put something back in his hand, and then I ended up playing out some Frostburn Weirds, Judge's Familiar, another Night Veil Spectre, attacked with it. I took his Etherling, so his Etherling was sitting there. I was eventually had enough mana to play the Etherling, and then I did Master of Waves again. Attacked him with everything. I forget how many turns it was, but yeah, it was attacked him with everything after I got the Master of Waves and I had the Etherling out, and I killed him, and he couldn't really respond. He didn't have much he could do, and then he checked his next card, and it was the Supreme Verdict, and he was not. He was really frustrated. He was assuming that he would win all through the weekend, but yeah, he was pissed. So yeah, that was pretty hysterical. That he, just kind of was like, yeah, I'm going to take this. Your deck's good, but mine's better. He did have a solid deck, and I think only playing me once was kind of a detriment, because he might have beaten me 2 out of 2 out of the 3 times, given the fact that his deck was very solid and had a lot of creature destruction. I think he just had a bad pool. He didn't have a lot of lands out. I had a lot more lands than he did, and he just got unlucky. Either way, I don't know. My deck was pretty awesome as well. So it would have been interesting to play 2 more games, but given just his attitude and everything, I just didn't even want to bother. So I just hung out in the store and was looking at more cards, waiting for the final results. And so yeah, I did win. Trying to think. The reason behind this tournament was that this guy donated his whole collection to the store, and they were doing a $30 entry fee and $25 it goes to charity. But they were just handing out cards, just a raffle all throughout the whole thing. And I had a stack of cards like this. Nothing too exciting in terms of value, but there's a lot of old stuff from the Dark and Arabian Nights and Legends, so it was kind of cool. And I won, I think, about 6 or 7 packs. And I won a Japanese pack of Prophecy, and I won the German pack of Revised. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. It's my first standard tournament in a long time, because I never really played in tournaments when I was younger. I did a couple. I did a couple in Boston, and I did a couple back in Pittsburgh, but not a lot. And I never really enjoyed playing standard, except for a brief period, I guess, when Odyssey was out, when I first made the Patron Wizard deck and I started playing in Magic Online Beta. But yeah, I did very well, and I was excited. Got all the good stuff. And I think I'll definitely go back and play. Now that I have my mono blue Devotion deck, and I enjoyed playing that type of deck, I'm definitely going to play some more standard up until they do some more rotation and it maybe no longer becomes valid. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. I'll probably stick with it until it becomes no longer valid, or until the cards rotate out, and then I might drop standard, but yeah, we'll see. I've been focusing on my Legacy deck for my Wizards, so I think I'd rather refine that and play some Legacy. So hope you guys enjoyed the little rundown of my games here. I think we're going to go over I'm not sure if we did post the winnings yet. I'll have to double check with Alachia. We did go through my winnings, all the cards we had, and I still have the pack revised. I'm not sure if I'm going to sell it or open it on the podcast. I have a feeling there's probably no dual lands in it, which would be very sad because I could probably just sell it for $100, but we'll see. See you guys soon. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.
This match shall go to Sean Merchant. Sean, yeah, giant man, come and claim it. I gotta get a picture of him with this mat, okay? Just wrap it around it.